So if you had seen the video that was posted a few hours ago, you would have seen that for my October 17th, I did not end up watching the Detroit Red Wings playoff against the New York Rangers in a revenge matchup. And maybe that was for the best. I was focused on the Canucks and the Panthers game because it went on at the same time that the Habs played the Kings and that the Red Wings played the Rangers, so I kinda had to choose one game to focus on, especially since I'm sick, I can barely talk well, and you can definitely hear that in the way that I'm making this video here today. But what I wanted to do was just kinda go over the responses. Because man, I hate to say it, I really do. It pains me from the bottom of my heart to say this after the run they had last season and the excitement building after that period. It pains me to say that the Red Wings are kinda trash. And if you take a look at yesterday's game, the Wings ended up losing, once again, to the New York Rangers. Last time it was 4-1, yesterday it was 5-2. And what I wanted to do was go out there and read some our Detroit Red Wings Reddit comments that go out there and try to dive into what's going on. Firstly, let's go over to the post-game thread. This was posted by the Octomod after the game concluded. You already know what these posts are about. It's the post-game thread, right? So Wings fans gather around and discuss the game that was. Unsurprisingly, there's a lot of doom and gloom going on here. The top comment says, "Hey, Moritz Seider's good. That's all I got." And another reply says, "Seider and Edvinsson looked good paired together in the third." That, I think, might be one of the only reasons to be positive after what we had seen yesterday and in the prior few games as well. Another comment says, "Absolutely no chemistry. It's bound to happen when you replace half the team year over year, and they have no coaching too." We've seen this talked about in varying capacities over the past few months, and even yesterday we had alluded to this idea in the Joel Quenneville video as to Derek Lalonde's coaching tenure as a part of the Red Wings, whether or not it's good, it's bad, it's whatever. But ultimately, I think this sort of thread touches on everything you need to really touch on. It's the team chemistry, it's the team setup, it's the way the team is coached, it's the way the team is assembled and put together. Lots of guys are always coming in and always coming out, and the coaching staff is, let's just say, not clicking right now. It's hard to find consistency with the way the Wings want to play their hockey, and unfortunately, when you combine this with lower shooting percentages, guys that don't really have much chemistry, you get games where the Red Wings are controlling play, they're getting opportunities, they're getting scoring chances, heck, they might even be winning in the money pucks deserve to win-o-meter charts. Even in the other Rangers game, the one that we had talked about a few days ago, not yesterday's, but the one before that, where the Wings had opportunities, they had chances, they just could not bury them on the Rangers. Not necessarily because they were getting robbed left, right, and center consistently by the goalie. Don't get me wrong, Igor Shesterkin definitely did play a part of it, but it's also because the Wings' shooting percentages are kinda trash right now. Who does that boil down to? Is it the coaching staff that's telling these guys to shoot it wide, or is it the player personnel? Is it the management for putting together this group of guys? Is this just kind of a low and slow slump? Are they better than this? Are they going to show off better than this? It's only been a few games. The season's just brand new after all. But at what point does it become a problem? Let's continue reading some more comments here. What is this team's path to contention? I honestly have no idea. Another year or two of this and you're probably looking at starting over. There really just isn't any. Being a buyer a few years ago was a bad idea, and it's been proven over and over. All our young players are roadblocked by immovable contracts for washed players. A coach who is incapable of setting decent line combos and has no system whatsoever. We are good enough to draft 15th to 20th and repeat again next year. And that, I think, is an idea that certainly strikes home with a lot of Wings fans that have been eagerly anticipating the debuts and long-term sustainability of guys that have been drafted recently. Everybody's talking about, oh, why was Marco Kasper sent down? Do they really want to give more of a spot to Austin Watson than Marco Kasper? You want to give more aging guys opportunities on this roster than a younger player who is legitimately good and has the capability of making an impact at the NHL level right now? Well, you kind of have no choice, because Andrew Kopp and JT Compher are signed on for a while now, aren't they? This boils down to whether or not the Wings have been doing a good job in managing their roster once again. It all boils down to Stevie Y. Was it a good choice to give Justin Hall that contract? Was it a good choice to get Jeff Petrie, to get Ben Sherratt, to get these other dudes, and hold back the development of some of the other younger defensemen? My greatest fear for this team is in trouble of becoming true, that they get stuck in mediocrity like the Flames or the Wild, while they're forever in the middle. They squeak into the playoffs or they don't get in, but they're never drafting high enough to find a player to push them over the top. And that's, I think, kind of the territory of no man's land that you could say. You're too good to be a rebuilding team that finishes in the top 5 of the draft every year, but you're not good enough to be a team that's finishing in the top 5 of Stanley Cup contention every year either. Sure, there are teams that are transitioning from one to the other, but for the Wings, it's kind of like, okay, they are old, right? They have a lot of older guys on the team, and you want to see these guys eventually fade away and have the younger guys be brought in. And we get it, there's a great culture with this team, there's good guys in the room, I won't dispute that. It's just, with this sort of a standard being set for what is expected on the ice, you kind of have to ask, is this really the right way to go about it? Another comment asks, when do you think the Wings were a buying team? And it was the year that they signed Andrew Kopp and Sherratt, etc. To each their own, but I wouldn't really think of that as buying. More like patching holes until they can be filled by younger players. It's not like we traded away any valuable assets for aging vets. Maybe I shouldn't have used buying, but I didn't know else how to describe it. If it was patching holes, like you had said, I would think 1 or 2 year contracts at most. Instead, we got some terrible long-term contracts that still affect us. I would have rather just called up some Griffins to patch those holes and embrace the suck and got a higher draft pick. And exactly, patching holes was year 1 or 2 for him. Filppula, Nemeth, Merrill, Osterley, Stetcher, all of whom were 1 or 2 years. And then they switched to 3, 4, 5-year deals for many of these contracts. They are not the same kinds of deals. There's sort of a commitment that you give. Automatically, when you sign a guy to a 3-year contract, like Justin Hall, for example, or Andrew Kopp or Comfer. Not that these players are necessarily bad, but the fact is, do they fit with what the Wings' projected timeline of success was going to be? There was a tweet that went pretty viral actually over the past few days here, posted by Dazer. This was replying to O. Nyquist, "This rebuild is making me fall out of love with hockey, I am so tired." By the way, shout out to O. Nyquist. Awesome content creator here on YouTube. I've been connected with him for a few years, but he's a Wings fan, and he was talking about this during the game. Hey, it sucks, right? But a reply from I'm Dazer says, Yzerman stepping on the gas the year of the Bedard draft will be the biggest mistake he had ever made. The Wings should have sucked for 1 more year and gotten a top 5 pick. Instead, we signed okay enough vets to raise the bar, and it's been this domino effect. And you have to start to think, okay, in 2022-2023, the Red Wings finished 7th overall in the Atlantic Division. They were still bad. But they still had Andrew Kopp. That was the first year that he was signed on to be a part of the team. If they didn't have him, they had some other prospect middling around and getting minutes instead, they probably would have been worse. And not to say that Andrew Kopp is like this amazing superstar caliber guy, it's just that was the first year he was on the team, and they still sucked. So if they sucked even more without him, then they might have been able to get a much higher draft pick in the 2023 NHL Entry Draft. And that's not even to say that Nate Danielson, the guy they did get at 9th overall, whom we did talk about in the previous video that's been pretty good, that's not even to say that he's a bad pick, it's just the Wings would have looked different if they had a Leo Carlsson or an Adam Fantilli or maybe even, goodness forbid, a Connor Bedard in their squad. Matvei Mishkov too. If they had done that for a few years, in fact, this would have been a lot easier. But now they've got these contracts, they've got this team, they're kind of stuck with it, and it's kind of interesting as to where this squad is going to go. The post-game thread has even more, let's just say, doom and gloom here. I've been optimistic for a long time, the team looks rudderless and non-responsive. Same boat, still hopeful, but that flame is getting dimmer and dimmer. There better be a good speech in that locker room. The only bright spot for me was that Mo and Edvinsson look good together. Lyon should be the starter in my opinion. Newsy Lalonde has lost the room. Newsy lost the room last season when Larkin got injured and the team lost 9 in a row, falling out of the playoffs. And finally, to end off this video, I wanted to read one more comment here from Coltron57. This team has been more disappointing than the 1920 season. Every flaw that this team had after last year that wasn't addressed one bit in this offseason is killing us to start the year. I thought Lalonde's seat should have been moderately warm-headed into the season, and it should be getting uncomfortably warm. Granted, Yzerman hasn't exactly built a roster that is cohesive. Too many free agents brought in for too much money to try and fit the square pegs in the round holes. So with this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section, how everything is falling apart for the Detroit Red Wings and Steve Yzerman. Do you agree, disagree, why or why not, and what exactly is the solution here? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.